Transportation Authority. I don't think there's a fifth vote there the way this is written. It has to pass the city, the council. We don't know where that's at. And I'm telling you, this is dead on arrival at the county. If the county says no, it will never get on the ballot. So what I'm proposing, and part of it's, I know you're not with the implementation guidelines, but they're unworkable. They're totally unworkable and they need technical people to rewrite. And what I'm proposing is that the county, the city of Fresno, and the city of Clovis get together and see if we can knock out something that everybody can agree to.
I do not agree with that because I think our cities, rural communities have a voice, Mr. Bloody Memphis. I appreciate your proposal, but I do think that we also have a voice. And it's important.
Well, you can say you don't want it once it comes back.
Well, I think what's important to note is that you're not even giving it an opportunity to get to you with all of our
I'm
input.
just telling you, it's dead on arrival.
How can you say that? Have you guys already
I
spoken
know,
about it?
I know what my board's.
Well, have you already spoken about it? Have you guys voted on it?
We did have an informational item and of what this we're doing right now, it was not taken well.
Okay, well, so, again, you haven't even got there yet to say that it's already dead.
So that's how you fix it, it needs to be fixed.
I would like to see you take it with an open mind to your board, with everyone's comments here, with a democratic vote here, based upon the people that are here and all these voters that represent a lot of people that vote in upcoming elections, that we understand that we do it open minded. With acceptance of everyone.
Yes.
Okay, at the table.
Yeah,
I'm thankful to Clovis and
Well,
Fresno.
that's fine, but
Can you
I'm telling
include
you
us,
it's
please?
dead.
Can you include us? How can you say that?
I know my board, I've been on that board for 11 years, I know where it's
I think that's the issue, people.
If I know the future, I will be a millionaire. So we don't know. We don't know it. So I think you can make an assumption.
I can guarantee it.
Wow. Wow.
Okay, it's your opinion. That's okay. I
That is
respect it.
fine.
I respect it. I
My
respect
opinion
it.
is the one that matters, along with the city of Fresno.
I respect it.
Not before them.
Yeah, but what about us?
Dyer, he's talking for you?
It doesn't matter.
No, there's things in there that I like. I told you a long time ago, I like that.
No,
We started off
that's not what you just said.
with a
Mr.
higher
Memphis. What you
IQ.
just said is your
I
opinion
think-
matters and what the city
I-
of Fresno matters.
I think, my opinion, with all due respect, Supervisor, is that the supervisor's position should take into consideration and respect what your elected officials in your county are saying to you. It shouldn't just fall solely on your own opinions. You should listen to what the Fresno County elected officials are saying that is important to them in their cities. You should take that into consideration when you go into vote. You shouldn't already have your mind made up before you even hear what these people around this table have to say. I think that having the mayor of Huron here and saying that, you are gonna disregard what the mayor of Huron's opinion is about what his community needs and Fireball and everyone else that's in your district. I think that you should take into consideration what we're bringing to you and you should vote on that.
No, you need
To go back to negotiations, it's crazy, guys, because everybody had an opportunity to be in the table, and you had the opportunity, you walk away from it. Now to ask to go back with Fresno and Clovis and try to negotiate, that's not an option.
No,
I'm sorry.
the reason I walked away is you guys were violating the Brown Act.
And we have a report, it's not founded, so now we can go ahead and have Brandon discuss this, matter, and we have some questions or comments, and then from there we can go with Nathan.
Yeah, just, two things. One, Kingsburg in this last one, although we're a small town, we were factoring this. We were factoring it because we didn't think that the numbers made too much sense. When I look at this now, my concern is regional is very underfunded in this. And I say that even these towns that are saying we didn't have anything that was done for us regionally, promises were made, but promises weren't kept, I respect that. But I do want you to look at it a little bit through a lens of, are people in your town utilizing these things that were done through regional projects? It may not have led right up to the doorsteps of your town, but some of these things are turned into shock corridors. the Veterans Boulevard, these projects are used by a lot of people. And if you look at what regional projects support, it has to get funded, because I respect the 10.1 million riders that you have on fax. 10.3, sorry. But at the same time, if you look at all these regional projects, how many passengers and riders are we talking about in that? It's gonna be 10, 20x that number. So these regional projects can't go unfunded. These are important projects. The way that it sits right now, for me, the regional is just too underfunded for this to make sense. And I think when we look at this through the lens of, we do all benefit from regional projects, that's why it's called regional, that moves the needle a little bit for me. I don't love it for Kingsburg as it sits, but without there being more money in regional, it's just gonna be harder for all of the people in my town, the people in our small towns to get from point A to point B. You know, we talk about our lower income people, the people that need rider, the people that need the fax and all that stuff, and that's true, it needs to get funded. But that doesn't mean that our low income people that are trying to get to Fresno shouldn't have regional projects to get them there. So that's my things, I need to see the needle move in order for this to make sense, because for right now, for Kingsburg, it doesn't make sense. Point two, I just wanna make sure that I'm understanding Supervisor Mendez, 'cause I was at that same board meeting. I just wanna make sure that what you're saying is, let's say we pass this tonight, in theory. It goes to transit, it goes to the city, it goes to the county. County says no. If county says no, what's the next thing that happens? Does it come back to us? Or does it die? What's the
The
thing that takes place?
clarification on that, you're only voting on the percentages, they haven't even worked on the guidelines yet, so that's not complete yet.
Correct, I'm asking for procedural, like what happens with that? If it does in fact play out the way the Supervisor Mendez said, if we come to resolution here, city comes to resolution, transit comes to resolution, and the county fails it, what happens?
It goes back,
To
goes back here.
Right, effectively, you would have the option of essentially starting over, tweaking it, or letting it go. I mean, at that point. So the statute specifies that it requires an approval by the Board of Supervisors and also a majority of the jurisdictions. This is a vote by resolution. The Board of Supervisors and a majority of the jurisdictions representing a majority of the population. So the Board of Supervisors is called out separately from the majority of the jurisdictions, all the other jurisdictions, the other 15. So from there, it goes, assuming it were to pass both of those obstacles, then it would go to the FCTA board and then back to the Board of Supervisors a second time for ratification for the ballot.
Or the city of Fresno can kill it because of the
Of the population, yeah.
Majority of the
Right.
population.
That's the only point I was trying to make.
Oh, Nathan, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I just want to clarify that, I completely understand that everyone has their own needs. I understand the needs of Fresno, you know, that, I was not aware you guys are subsidizing the school district. I wasn't aware of that, that's interesting. And I do very much appreciate, Fresno and Clovis both, when it comes to lower amounts of money giving in for the rural places. And that's why I want to really echo the idea that I'm not saying I'm against this. What I'm just saying is that I'd like to see it modified. And I understand that we're not talking about the implementation guidelines, but I want to make sure that we're on the same page when we're talking about that and we're talking about allocations. Because when we're looking at the city of Coalinga's size, we're looking at 6.88 square miles. That's why I believe that public transportation in Coalinga looks different when you look at the city of Fresno, which is 112 to 116 square miles. It just looks different. Now, I'm not saying that we don't have a need either. I look at the people who are less fortunate. I'm not saying we don't have a need, but I'm just saying that what we're doing now isn't working. So I just want to see something that is flexible. So that the smaller cities that we can, do what we need to do to make sure that if we need to make a change to make sure that our public transportation is better. But when I look at the implementation guidelines, I see that there's a lot of things in there that are very rigid. And so I just want to make sure that we're addressing all these issues. I also don't want anyone in the audience to think that I'm not sensitive to the issues of everybody, because I am. And so I may have come out of the gate very harsh on this. That wasn't my intention, because I've heard everybody's, different needs on this. I get it. I just want to make sure that we're flexible. That's my only thing with this, is that we're flexible. Thank you.
I got a few, Jerry, I have a question for you, Jerry. Would you, you mentioned that, facts would be devastated by the letter, I think it's 11%, which would bring you down like under 7%, right, for facts. If you stayed at the current, I think it's 13.7, does that sound right, for facts? Would that be devastating if you stayed there?
No, so in order for that to occur, that 13.66 is based on the current formula today, which is at 24%. So when you factor in how monies get carved out, it doesn't, the true dollars that we get $15 million a year right now for facts. And so that's what we get.
I guess I know I'd ask it. So right now, the high priorities allocation that's coming to us is at 25%. And the numbers that staff use, that takes it up to 17.5 for facts. If you bring that down to 20, then that's still 14% for facts. That's where that question, I understand that some of the programs, because maybe there's no sub-allocations that are absorbed, I understand that. However, I would say, I believe anyways, there may be one or two elements that are moved over, maybe the innovation. And should we, I expect one of them, maybe next time it comes back to our board, to perhaps even taking off the COG's funding source as well. But anyway, that's where that comes from. And so, if anything, if at least considering 5% less can be a consideration, I would like to hear that. The couple other things, if you would, Chair, please. For Reedley, I don't know how much it makes sense. I got these numbers from staff from COG, but 1 to 2% of the county population uses buses as a mode of transportation. 1 to 2% of the whole county population. And this high priority allocation is allocating 25%. So 25% for 1 to 2% of how people move themselves around the county. I would ask, make that make sense. I hear the comments, but I would imagine I'd probably hear the same thing, but that doesn't make sense, at least coming from me. I've heard that the basically 4% for regional connectivity is fine, but Chandler and FY, so 4% for regional connectivity. I've been told that 4 to 6 projects can be done, I'd imagine, maybe in the whole 30-year expectation, but I'd like to hear what realistic projects do those look like. There's the bridge over 198, I think it is, in Huron at 269. That could be a realistic project. I think it was done about 10 years ago, but that was like $2 million, where CTC, I think, funded about 12 million or something. And so with 4% regional connectivity, I'd like to hear what realistic projects can be done. 4 to 6 projects that I've been told. I'm gonna get everything out real quick, if you don't mind. About half of the population in the city of Reedley travels outside of the city of Reedley every single day, about half of us. And I would argue that probably the other all 13 of the cities in the county, not including Fresno and Clovis, I bet you we're all bedroom communities. But I'll just talk about Reedley. Half of our community every day travels outside the city of Reedley. Manning Avenue is great because of that allocation for regional connectivity. I would love to see Reed Avenue, 180 to Reedley be done again. That would be regional. Reach, Orange Cove, Parlier, parts of east side of Sanger, even Dinuba, Collier County. But we can put our blinders on. Just look at the city limits. This is a great allocation, 65%, not even including ATP. But when half of my population in the city of Reedley travels outside the city of Reedley and depends on those other roads, I bet you folks from Clovis just getting here probably goes through county roads, through regional connectivity type of roads, not to mention their own roads and the city of Fresno roads, just from Clovis. And y'all are connected
And so the 5% for regional connectivity is a huge flag for me, as well as what I've already mentioned. I would like to hear also, we have our District 6 director here, and I mentioned that for staff, but if there's anything that can be added from our District 6 Caltrans director on thoughts on regional connectivity, I'd like to hear from him as well. I've heard a number so briefly, and I think it's common for all local jurisdictions, but we're able to leverage our funds about 4-to-1 on our Measure C funds. We have over 10 million, we've leveraged about over 40 million for the city of Eureka. It's great in the tenure of the measure. I've heard a number that the regional number is 7-to-1. And say again, we're looking at 5% for that regional number. And I've heard that number a couple of times. If it's 4-to-1 for regular Measure C roads funds, 7-to-1 for regional connectivity, I think the idea that these are state highways, these are state roads, and the state needs to pay for it. I'll tell you what, I work for the state. I work in one of the committees that funds these. If we're gonna look at the state to pay for all of these state highways, one of the first things that Robert told me early on this year is watch that regional number, because if we may be good for the next 10 years, but after 10 years, if that regional number is not high enough, our state capacity, freeways, transportation corridors are going to start deteriorating. This 4% for that is, in my opinion, is glaring. We need to focus on that. Exactly what I heard early on from staff here. Self-help counties, there's one county around here that I know of that's not a self-help county. It was on that report that the surveys came out in Kings County. They were relatively low on that number. 4%, does that really keep us as a self-help county? I don't see it. I don't know how many projects can actually be done with 4% other than perhaps surveys. Furthermore, I know I'm putting it all out, but I don't want to talk again. We got this letter, and my opinion, Victor, these are experts. We have previous directors, we have previous COG directors, FCTA directors, and a number of Caltrans experts. I like to hear from the experts. I don't consider myself an expert. I don't necessarily consider any of us except for perhaps staff, and that's who I would like to hear from. We got this letter. I don't necessarily agree with all these numbers. I think I agree 11% is not realistic for public transportation. But I may think the same thing about 25%. I would like to hear from them if they would like to speak on their letter.
Well, we can start with the questions that were asked first with Robert, and then whatever other questions that you can
Once
answer.
we open it to public comment, then they can have the opportunity to talk.
No, he's our,
No, I mean the experts.
no, that's Michael, right? Right?
I don't think you consider me an expert, maybe.
Okay, well, let's just go with what, for you to answer.
Michael's gonna need another Mountain Dew for this. Okay, so if I understood the questions correctly, okay, so starting with the last question then? Is that?
Go from the beginning.
Okay, well, okay. So, the first thing I understood was with regard to the public transportation, the proposal here, as Mayor Dyer alluded, is, under the current measure, to clarify, 24% of the current measure is allocated toward the public transportation category. However, it is then further subdivided into multiple programs. So of the 24%, about 19.6% go to the 3 transit agencies under the current measure, and then the remainder is divided among other smaller categories or programs, including senior script, carpool, van pool, and ag van pool. Under this proposal, 25% goes completely to transit agencies entirely, but those sub-programs are then folded in as eligible expenditures that would be dealt with as under the implementing guidelines, which are only in draft form at this point, to be addressed, through, that mechanism, through the public transit agencies. Right now, those, programs that I mentioned, Senior Script, the Ag Van Pool and the Carpool Van Pool rideshare programs are administered, at Fresno COG. Under the, regional program, right now, as it stands, and I know this is not, on the agenda tonight, but, just for your information, the implementing guidelines as they sit today, the draft version, contemplates no projects, right now, and simply says those are to be identified later for the kind of the reasons you mentioned. We're not sure, what would be funded. We envision a competitive program to deal with that, and there's an ongoing conversation about what kinds of projects could be funded, using, regional, dollars. The second question under the regional program, as I understood it, had to do with leveraging. And it is true that the, regional projects have been most